Hello. Today I thought I would talk about Lest We Forget on some of the lessons from Mikhail Gorbachev. In all the midst of all the news about celebrities or pseudo-celebrities, sports, name-calling by politicians and others, environmental policy, illegal immigration, and other cultural issues, Mikhail Gorbachev died recently on August 30th. There were mere mentions of his passing on various news and media sites. While some Americans remember the world culture and historical events of his life, others remain happily ignorant of the importance of the issues that surrounded his life and that are just as relevant today as they were during his lifetime. Mikhail Gorbachev was the last Secretary General of the Soviet Union, or the USSR, and his actions and decisions helped lead to the end of European socialism and communism. Approximately 40% of Americans are either too young to remember the Cold War or were born after the end of the Cold War. While many may dismiss the Cold War as the battle of ongoing ideologies, it is important to note that those same ideologies have renewed their all-encompassing battle with each other. Today we hear of socialism, sometimes mixed with the term progressivism, which isn't the same thing at all, as the solution to the perceived ills that face society. Equal distribution of wealth, government provided employment and housing, the same health care for all, etc. However, the Soviet system demonstrated the failure of the application of these ideals. Yes, there was an equality of basic services and benefits for the lower classes, while the upper elites enjoyed economic and social benefits that the lower classes could not even envision or hope to attain. The bread lines were real. The wait of several years for an apartment was real. The wait and desperation for other services was real. And the system never realized its goals. How did Stalin manage to meet his 5-year plans? By exporting all of the grain grown in Ukraine to finance the industrialization of the Soviet Union. And about 4 million Ukrainians starved to death between 1931 and 1935 due to those policies. Those who want the government to control the speech of others, the Soviet Union did so, and China continues to do so. Want one cultural perspective? Yes, that is the result of a totalitarian regime, and it sounds like the desire of many of today's activists. We have seen and experienced these systems already, yet many people demand that the U.S. embody these same systems. Mikhail Gorbachev inherited an economic and social system that was falling apart. In an attempt to encourage agricultural and industrial workers to increase productivity, he introduced a wage system that would provide more pay for more work. To try to overhaul both the social and economic systems, he introduced perestroika and its attendant complex reforms. And in order to get people to have more confidence in the entire system, he introduced glasnost, which would bring a new openness to the nation. However, what he could not do was stop the tide of resentment and desire for freedoms that spread throughout Eastern Europe after the election of the Polish Pope John Paul II and the rise of the Solidarity movement in Poland. It was during the term of President George H.W. Bush that Gorbachev and Bush oversaw the dismantling of Eastern European communism and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Although Gorbachev lost power and was succeeded by Boris Yeltsin, he continued to analyze world events and in fact warned about the development of a new Cold War under Putin that others ignored starting in 2014. I actually cut that quote out of the news magazine I was reading and taped it to the board in my classroom so that my students and I would be aware of this growing threat and that we would pay attention to other signs that it was happening. Although socialism collapsed in Eastern Europe, China introduced the capitalist zone in Shanghai to help support and continue their economy. However, we continue to see people and politicians push for the introduction of these systems into the United States. While many concepts associated with socialism represent social ideals, such as care for all, the applications of these services tend to be reserved for the political and cultural elites of the nation. Animal Farm by George Orwell has a very succinct quote that best demonstrates this. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. People desire equality, but depending on the government to provide equality does not necessarily work. The only perfect equality that I have read about or observed is that of God's equality. That does not mean that our earthly lives will all be the same as others under God, but that God sees us as equal if we believe and accept the salvation that is offered to us through Christ. Galatians 3:26-29 states, "You all are children of God through faith in Christ Jesus. For all of you who were baptized into Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise." Beyond that, it is very clear how God directs us to treat each other, to treat others equally to ourselves. In Mark 12:29-31, Jesus himself tells us, in response to a question about which commandment is the greatest commandment, the most important one is this: love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. This same concept is found numerous times in biblical passages, which emphasizes its importance. Therefore, with the passing of Gorbachev, we are reminded of the failure of government to ensure equality. But we can be encouraged that those of us who are followers of Christ are viewed equally by God, while at the same time instructed to love and treat others equally with ourselves. I just hope you're going to have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you.